A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about games that I've played so far this year, and in that video I said that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was my game of the year, and I said specifically that it would be very difficult for a game to beat it. Little did I know that this game, Clair Obscure, would just completely smash my expectations. I would actually go so far as to say that this is one of the best games I've ever played. And it didn't exactly come out of nowhere. I mean, it was on my radar and I was quite looking forward to it, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite as good as it actually is. As soon as the reviews started pouring in, I thought, oh, okay, maybe it is something special. And I sort of had to pull myself away from playing Oblivion to actually play it, but I'm so glad I did, because as far as like turn-based games are concerned, this is absolutely the best. It kind of brought me back to like old school Final Fantasy games, except you've got all these modern graphics and all of these modern sort of touches where, for example, the combat is, I would say it's sort of like a mix between real-time and turn-based. Obviously, you still have turns, and then once your turn's over, then the enemy attacks, so on and so forth, but it's a lot more active in the fact that you've got dodges, you've got parries. They've put some Souls-like elements in a turn-based RPG, not just as far as, you know, the fact that there's dodges and parries, but the way that you level up is also reminiscent of Souls-likes, where you sort of spec into specific stats. But the early game is definitely a bit more forgiving and a bit more traditional. There is still parries and whatnot, and you will get punished if you don't learn how to do it, but enemies' attack patterns are a lot more basic and a lot more simplistic, and you're actually seeing footage from the first couple of hours here, because I literally do not want to give anything about this game away. If you haven't already checked it out, then you need to. Seeing this sort of big overworld where it's very inspired by old school JRPGs, where you have this big overworld and then you have smaller set locations that you sort of drop into where most of like the story takes place and stuff, but just having a bigger overworld where your character is like massive compared to all of these buildings and stuff. It's so old school in a way it's just super cool, because you don't really see it. I think the only other game that's done it in recent memory is like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but that's not like a JRPG or anything, but it did have an overworld in a similar vein. But this game is different because you sort of unlock new traversal options and the world just opens up so much further and further through the game. There's a lot of build variety in this. You have this system called Pictos, where you basically equip them. They're just like accessories and they give you stat boosts, but some of them like completely change the way that you play it. Like, for example, if you parry every attack that an enemy throws at you, you can do like a counter attack, and then you can get specific Pictos which, you know, boost your counter attacks. They can cause like 100% stun build up, or they can cause the enemy to burn if you counterattack, or you don't even have to focus on parries. You could completely create a character around dodging as well. Dodge timings are much wider, so they're much easier to pull off, but they're not as rewarding because you can't do counterattacks after it. And obviously you have like a ranged attack, much like Persona 5, and also every single party member, and this still continues to blow my mind, but every single party member in this game plays completely differently. Like, they all have completely unique mechanics. For example, Luna's main ability is that she generates what are called stains, and they correspond to the different like magic element that you use, so like fire, ice, earth and lightning, and depending on which stains you build up, her special abilities have like unique extra strong powers that like use up the stains. She has a certain skill in the late game where if you have 4 stains of like 4 different elements, she does like a ridiculously overpowered attack, and it's so satisfying to pull off. There's a character later on that I'm not going to spoil. Their central mechanic is that they just mimic the enemy's attacks. So if you have them in your party when you defeat an enemy, they can copy that enemy's like attack, and you can assign skills that way rather than unlocking them in a skill tree. I wouldn't even say that there's more powerful or better party members to use, because they're all very viable and they're all so different. I did lean on 3 specific party members. Like, at the moment, my main party is like 10 levels above my secondary party because I have sort of leaned on them. But it's just because I've become comfortable using them in my party, and I have like perfect synergies between all 3 of them with their different abilities. They interact with each other super well. And I've actually avoided talking about the story until now because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I finished the game yesterday as of me recording this. It's got such a cool premise, such a cool setup. The way that it's presented, the way that that first hour of the game opens up, and it's really emotionally charged, and you have all of these subtle character interactions. And then once you actually set out on your expedition, when the main story begins, and it just, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a big twist literally right off the bat. And it really caught me by surprise, and it was just insane. It just doesn't let up. There is not a single moment of filler in this game. Most RPGs, especially like JRPGs, they just flood you with like info dumps. I'm talking like Persona 5, you know, there's so many moments in that game which just feel so padded out. And it's an amazing game, don't get me wrong, but it does feel like they were trying to just inflate the game time, basically. There's so much info dumping on things that we already know. Clair Obscure is completely different. It is the exact opposite of that. You literally get shown a big event, a big twist, and you basically just got to, you know, figure out yourself. There's a lot of really deep themes and complex moments in the game that, honestly, like I said, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, because it's not just explained to you in big info dumps or anything. You actually have to engage with the story and meet it on its level, and it's really compelling, and it's very entertaining too, because again, there's so many plot twists. The closest comparison that I have for the story is like Attack on Titan, where that story, it has a unique, cool concept, and it starts off somewhat simple, but as you keep watching Attack on Titan, anyone who's watched it will know, it just gets more and more complex, and there's so many plot twists that completely recontextualize the entire story, and it happens multiple times. Clair Obscure does the exact same thing. It just has all of these massive plot twists that completely recontextualize the story in really cool and unique and interesting ways that I've not really seen in a game before. It has these amazing character interactions, and it has this amazing cast of characters that they feel really three-dimensional and really interesting and unique, but it also has a really complex and fast-moving narrative that it just constantly surprised me from start to finish. It wouldn't let up. There was no breathing room in this game. And also, this game is just like visually insane. Like, the environmental design in this is among the best I've ever seen. The second area in the game that you go to is this like deep sea underwater area where everything is obviously ocean themed. And again, when you finally unlock all of your traversal abilities and stuff, and you are able to like properly explore the open world, there's so much optional content as well. So many cool little hidden areas off the beaten path that aren't part of the main story but are just as visually cool, and there's so many unique bosses and so many things to do. But yeah, the main highlight of this game really is the story, and it is honestly one of the best stories that I've ever experienced in a game. And it's a high bar because there are some really amazing stories, but I think this might actually be like my new favourite narrative in any video game. It's super unique, it's super engaging, the characters are incredible, but it is held up by like an incredible combat system, awesome level design, awesome environments, and it sticks the landing as well. Like, I don't have any complaints. I think that this game is pretty much almost perfect. There is like one tiny issue that I have with the game, and it's not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but I did notice it. It's obvious that they overdubbed the cutscenes. So they've obviously gone with motion capture for the majority of the cutscenes here, which is awesome, and it looks awesome. I love it when games actually use motion capture instead of cheaping out on like robotic animations, but it's obvious that they have then dubbed over the motion capture footage with like the actors. You know, and there are some amazing performances here. We've got Charlie Cox and Andy Serkis, and obviously Jennifer English and Ben Starr. Just an amazing stacked cast, and they do an incredible job. The performances are so good, but it is noticeable at times when the voice lines don't quite line up with the motion capture footage. Like, sometimes, just very occasionally, like a character is looks very expressive, but then the voice acting is more sort of subdued. So it doesn't always quite line up. Sometimes the mouth lip syncing also is a bit wonky, but it takes you out for like 2 seconds and you're like, oh, that looked weird, but then it pulls you in immediately with just this amazing dialogue, amazing story. So I wouldn't really say that it's a huge issue, but if I had to think of one negative to give this game, it would be that. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, that is such a small issue because the rest of this game is literally absolutely perfect, and I think it's an absolute must play. If you like JRPGs, it's a must play. If you like a good story in a game, it's a must play. If you like great combat, engaging combat, even if you're not like a fan of turn-based combat, this is still a must play because it's a lot more active and a lot more engaging than most turn-based combat systems. Like, you know, you've got the parry system where it actually requires you to be completely hands-on. I'm just completely floored by this game, and it has immediately become one of my all-time favourites. And it is a game that I will be replaying for the years to come many, many times. It is an absolute masterpiece, and it is the game of the year. And I know I said this about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but truly, I do not think that any other game will come along this year that affects me in the way that this one did. So I'm pretty confident, just 4 months into the year, that this is the game of the year, for me at least. But yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to come on here and give my thoughts about this game and recommend it to anyone watching this that was maybe on the fence. But anyway, that's enough from me. I will see you in the next video. Bye.